Finding Common Battlegrounds is an attempt by two brothers, one conservative, the other progressive, to have civil conversations about politics with a little help from their friends.
Hey, everybody. This is Finding Common Battlegrounds. So this is our podcast dedicated to talking about a subject with from angles of both sides of the political spectrum, conservative and liberal. So I've got Josh and Ryan Cragun here. They're brothers, and one is a conservative, one is a liberal. And we're going to be talking through, we're going to take a subject today and we're going to break it down, and we're going to try and find what we have in common in the middle and try to see what we agree on and what we don't, and have a civil debate about this. So we're excited. But go ahead and have you guys introduce yourself. Josh, you want to go first and give us a little background?
Sure. I'm Josh Cragun. I check off all the boxes for your typical conservative in America. A middle-aged white Christian male, slightly overweight. I love me some red meat and shooting guns. So I'm a really good prototype for the right. I'm not super conservative. I'm not necessarily even Republican. There's some libertarian things going on there, but I check off all those boxes. And I like the idea of this podcast because Ryan and I are brothers. We're fairly close in age. We were raised with the same values by the same parents. We shared the same bed when we were small. We had the same friends, which is weird. Tom was Ryan's friend, and Tom and Mark, and my two best friends were their little brothers, Matt and Dave. So we lived very similar lives. And then in our early 20s, Ryan went left and I stayed pretty much to the right. So it's an interesting juxtaposition to see that interplay between us. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table here.
Awesome. Thanks. And Ryan.
So I'm basically the polar opposite of Josh, right? I'm the stereotypical left-leaning progressive. I'm a college professor with a PhD in sociology of all topics. So happy to talk more about that. But I do check off a lot of those boxes as well, though. I guess I'm still a mostly straight white guy. We can talk more about that in another podcast.
Whoa.
Complicated. We'll get to it another time.
Really, there's a spectrum.
For me, there is a spectrum. For me, I love talking politics. I don't claim to be a particular expert in politics, right? I mean, I have my area of expertise that I publish in, but I just like talking politics. And what I really like about this is that the format is that we get to talk politics, and it's with people who don't necessarily agree with me, but it's going to be a respectful conversation where we're actually trying to find where we do agree, even if at the end of the day we say, well, actually we don't agree, we still care about each other, and so it's not just animosity the whole time.
Yeah, and along with that, I just want to say that I think today we're all at jeopardy of like being in an echo chamber, whether that's on your social media groups or the news you listen to. Sometimes we just find ourselves like listening to the same people agreeing with you, and I think it's healthy to hear the other side in a healthy way, right? In a constructive manner. So I'm excited about this, and I appreciate both of you fitting so nicely into the conservative and liberal categories. So that's going to facilitate this nicely. So I'll go ahead and move on to today's subject. So what we decided we wanted to talk about today is college. We're going to talk about college, the college experience, and is it worth going to college? And there's a lot of different aspects of this that we're going to talk through, but that's basically the subject that we've set up, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this. A couple forward that I'm going to give here is basically I pulled up some stats, and today, about 35% of all Americans complete a 4-year degree. And that's back in 1940, so like 80 years ago, that was only 4.6 actually attend college. So a great majority, not a majority, but a great many are now attending college, and so we're trying to look at like is it worth it if someone was thinking about doing that, and what are the costs and what are the rewards, and what are the pros and what are the cons, and so I'm going to talk that through. So Ryan, if you want to take the first stab at this and just give your argument and your case for or against going to college and what it's worth. See where we end up as far as having some common ground.
Sure. So I have just like a quick little intro piece, and then I'm going to hit my first point. I've got 3 more points after that, so we'll see if we have time to hit them. But I think really the first point that I want to kind of think through is that the operative word here is worth, right? We should cover in a future discussion why we think collectively college tuition is so expensive these days, because college tuition has gone up pretty dramatically, and I'd like to talk about that. But I think there are really 2 questions here. So the first one is, does the increased salary that comes with a college education justify the higher tuitions? Okay. And I'm happy to talk about that. And I've actually got a chart. If we get to it, I'm happy to show that. My second kind of question here is, does every job really require a college degree? And my answers to those 2 questions are mostly yes on the first one and no on the second one. And so I'm going to start with that second one and see if Josh and I can agree on it, and then we'll see if we can go from there. So I think Josh and I can agree that college isn't for everyone and doesn't need to be for everyone or every job. Plumbers don't need a college education. Medical doctors do. And this is not meant to be a slight toward plumbers. I'm not trying to kind of go mean on plumbers. Those who listening, so you're aware, or if you're watching, our father was a general contractor and inventor who built car washes. Josh and I have done our fair share of plumbing, electrical, and construction work. My least favorite of all of that is pouring concrete. Total respect to plumbers and everybody in those trades, because I did it for years and it is tough work. Given their expertise, I think plumbers can learn their trade in a couple of years without going to college. Medical doctors do need to go to college for a variety of reasons, some of which I'll return to later, hopefully in the podcast. So my first point is that some professions require college, others do not. Josh, do we agree?
Agreed, 100%. That one's simple.
Ding, ding, ding.
Cool. The one area, and I'll get into it when I start going, is the 4-year degree. Most of these occupations that you're talking about that need a college degree have graduate programs, lawyers and doctors and that kind of stuff. The 4-year degree, I have reservations about, but your essential point, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. So I can keep going, or do we want to switch and Josh takes a turn? Moderator, what do you think?
Yeah. So you've picked out, you've kind of picked out an aspect of it, and like, is there kind of a broader argument you want to make? So you're saying college is good for certain groups.
Yes. And my next point actually gets to this. So where I think we might disagree is on some of the grayer occupations. I'm kind of putting that there. Should a pilot have to have a college degree? And I don't know if you know this, but some airlines do in fact require it. My brother-in-law's a pilot for Delta. Got to have a college degree, right? What about a police officer? So also not required everywhere, but some departments require it. And it's often kind of required. It's like semi-required for promotions among police officers, right? I can see ways that a college degree requirement would benefit both professions, but I'm not sure if it's required, right? Like it should be required. So I'm wondering, again, this is me trying to see if we can find agreement. Can we agree that it's not clear whether a college degree is beneficial for some professions?
No, because why on earth would you need a college degree to be a police officer? Police officers need training and on-the-job training and way more training. Why? What is a 4-year degree going to contribute to a police officer learning how to react under pressure? It doesn't make any sense.
That's a specific example of police officer. I'm just saying, for some degrees, could we say like it's not clear for some professions whether they need it or not? Could we agree on that?
You'd have to be more specific. What professions? Give me an example of a profession where it's gray.
Where it's gray?
Yeah.
Pilot.
No.
Again, they need it.
No, similar. I want my pilot in my plane that's flying my family. I want him to be the best pilot he can be. I don't care if he can do, advanced trigonometry. You know, that what's he going to do in a modern airplane that the computers in the airplane can't do? I want him to be a great pilot. I want him to be trained specifically to fly. I don't care about that he took a gender studies class or something like that. That doesn't help him fly the plane, in my opinion. So I don't see where that's gray. So I don't know that we're going to find any agreement there.
Okay.
Do you have another example you want to try?
Yeah, and director of HR, human resources at a company.
Director of HR.
Let's try that one.
I still don't see it, but this might be my bias against and this will come out when I present my case here. I have a bias against the 4-year degree. I don't see a lot of use in most of the classes that you're required to take. So how is a HR director going to benefit from? I mean, it gives them a broader range of experience to draw upon, I guess, but that's almost esoteric in the claim.
So not finding an agreement there, Ryan.
No.
You want to continue on with your wrapping up your broader point?
Yeah, so I will try and move quickly through these last couple of points. We'll see if I can get, and you stop me at any point. So let's try this next one. Josh, will you generally, well, let's see. Okay, so here's the point. Will people generally make more if they have a college degree? The answer is actually yes, right? And I do have a chart if you want to. Do we have to see the chart? No. Like we don't care. Okay. So statistics, of course, apply to groups, not individuals. So it is true for most people, but not everyone. So not everyone who goes to college is going to make more money than those who don't go to college. But this is just generally a fact. So I don't think we need to kind of debate that. Like we agree, generally people who go to college are going to make more money. Yes, we're good on that. Or do you want to see the fact, like the numbers?
No, the numbers bear that out. The problem, and something that we could talk about in the future, is why that is. And it's because most corporations, most of these jobs you're talking about, require a degree when it's not actually necessary for the job. Like you just said, with a pilot, you have to get a degree for most airlines, maybe our airlines, I don't know. For a lot of corporations, they require a degree, whether it's even applicable to the field or not. Right. So that could be a big reason of why, but I'm not disputing the numbers. The numbers bear out. Obviously, a college degree, you'll make more money.
Got it. So we agree on the numbers, even if we kind of disagree on some of the other stuff. So different question. Is the increase in salary enough to offset the costs, which is ultimately getting to the worth question, right? I would say this is complicated. And so I'm hoping again that we can agree. If you go to a very expensive private school and end up working as a barista after college, right? No, that is clearly not worth it, right? If you go to a cheaper state school and end up in finance on Wall Street, obviously, right? It's worth the expense. So if we're just thinking about cost benefit, like strict, homo economicus, like straight rationality, then you can see where it might be really beneficial in some places and others.
Do you have any numbers on the overarching scheme there?
So I actually have the Federal Reserve Bank of New York states 41% receive college grads. 41% of recent college grads are underemployed, meaning they're working jobs that they didn't need a degree for. So, and I think that's kind of what you're
right.
Yeah.
So if you end up there, I would actually agree. Like you shouldn't have gone to college, right? If you end up in a profession where you clearly needed it and the payoffs are pretty good, then got it. So my point is there's lots of permutations between those two extremes. The person who goes to the private school and ends up as a barista versus the person who goes to a cheap state school and is making, $50 million a year as a Wall Street financial analyst, right? So can we agree that it's a little complicated whether the increase in salary is enough to offset the costs? Because it's not a straight either or.
No,
right?
It's not. And that goes into part of the problem that I have with colleges is the fact that they're pushed so heavily in high school on every kid, and that so many corporations require and want a college degree that's the cult that basically we're all inculcated into in high school, right? That you have to go to college if you want to make something of yourself. And that's not accurate, because what we're seeing there with 41% of these kids going to college and actually graduating, that's to say nothing of the dropout rate,
which is high.
they're 41% are underemployed. That's hugely problematic. So I agree with your overall point, but that doesn't speak to the fact that there is a bigger issue at large with pushing all these kids into college.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan.
Keep going.
Yeah. Well, you
Okay.
got it.
I've got one more, and then my final point, which we can get to the end. Less people think.
I do want to say one. I do want to say one thing, and I want to address this at some point. And I think this is kind of what Josh might be getting at. But there's two things I was thinking of when you were saying this, and that was there's sort of a cause and causality like issue here, right? Of like this guy's making more money because he graduated from college. Well, what about the guy that went halfway, dropped out, and then became a plumber? And he didn't need a college degree, right? Because he couldn't graduate from college, right? And it's like, well, he maybe didn't need college to begin with, but he had to figure that out along the way. And the other point I can't remember. So we'll get back to that one. But,
we will, and I think we'll actually hit at that towards the end here. So less people think I only care about money, because that was all like rational, money arguments. What about the less tangible aspects of college, specifically? And I'm using my language here very carefully. I'm going to define this: liberal arts training, which is, just so we're defining this, because I know people kind of confuse that, right? Just because I'm a liberal,
really
I'm
hard not to roll my eyes right now.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Liberal arts training, the actual definition is training in the natural sciences, social sciences, arts, and humanities. That's literally what it means, not training people to be liberals, okay? And I know that gets confused, but that's hundreds of years old. That's a very old concept. So my question would be, should people know history? Should they know philosophy? Should they know science? Should they know math? Should they know literature, sociology, anthropology, and politics? Not what to think, but how politics works. I am of the opinion that a well-functioning democracy requires a citizenry that understands what democracy is, how it works, what is real, what is true, and what is ideal. I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I think Josh may agree with me on this one. Ideally, everyone in society would have some training in the liberal arts as I just defined them, and I will again, by which I mean natural sciences, social sciences, arts, and humanities. Would you agree with that?
No, that would be great, but that's an absolute pipe dream.
Oh,
that's an absolute pipe dream.
Hard. I tried so hard.
You were close. You were actually close. You're actually close. I like your argument, but it's a pipe dream. I mean, we're talking about Star Trekian future world here.
Okay, but you would agree with it for that, wouldn't you? Just like in principle, you would agree with it.
But it's not. But this is applicable.
Come on.
This is
in
principle,
applied. Would you agree with it? And then you can tell me that you don't agree with it.
In principle.
Josh, could I say that you see value in it, but not necessarily in a college format, right? Learning liberal arts is a good thing, but I don't need to go to college to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's that should be what high school and middle school are doing, right? They're giving kids a taste of the full spectrum of learning, right? To see and everybody should have a basic understanding of math and of reading. There should be a basic level. We all basically agree on that. But to say everybody should be well versed in history and politics, in theory, that's fantastic. But we have the whole sum of human knowledge on our phones right now, and we still have a bunch of ignorant morons walking around that don't know anything about anything. So
agreed.
In theory, yes. But applied, no. How do you make that come to fruition? Honestly, how could you force our willfully ignorant citizenry to start studying history? I agree. Everybody should know history. History is of an incalculable price. Is incalculable importance, but a lot of people find it incredibly boring. How do you in practice go about that? That's where we're not agreeing. In theory, you're right. In practice, no frickin' way.
I'm calling this agreement because I think we do agree, right? Like in theory, everybody should have some of this knowledge. In practice, people know more about the Kardashians than World War II.
Okay, this was actually my third point. This is a good seg into my third point.
Go.
I'll make
you
it my first point.
I've got one other, but I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna 50% agreement on that last one. So
that's fair. That's fair.
All right.
I'll give you that.
So Josh, you're gonna we'll move over to Josh then, and he'll give his main point. Is that?
Yeah.
I'm segueing right into what Ryan just said. This was my third point. This is why I dropped out of college, and I've told Ryan this story before. I went to college for like a year, and I was just taking classes that were interesting to me, and then I found out, I'm not going to graduate because I'm not on a college track. So I went and met with a counselor, and the counselor said, you need to take these classes to graduate. And I looked at the list, and it was like 2 years of math. And I don't want to take any math classes. I find math incredibly boring. I want to take English classes. That's what I like. And he pulled up my transcript and said, look at your ACT. You have a 36 on the English portion of the ACT. You don't need English. But your math wasn't good. It was average. I think it was 18 or something is an average score for math. So you need to take these math classes. And I said, I'm not interested in math. I want to take English classes. I want to do some creative writing.
That's why I got bad scores in the first place, right?
Exactly. I don't care about math. And I'm average. I can do up to geometry, and I use that all the time. I use, for my small business, I use addition and subtraction and
multiplication and division.
All that. And for my job, I use geometry all the time. But I don't need algebra and calculus and trigonometry unless you're an engineer or an astrophysicist or a math teacher. You don't need those. But I had to take all those classes if I wanted to graduate. So I told the counselor, he said, you need to take these classes if you want to graduate. And I said, I guess I don't want to graduate. And I walked out the door and I never went back. It's that simple. So this goes to Ryan's point. I kind of understand for an Ivy League college to say, we want a Harvard man to be well-versed in everything, and he's going to be an athlete, and he's going to know everything about everything. I get there's a degree of preeminence that comes with that paper on your wall if you're in an Ivy League school, but for the vast majority of schools, what does it really come down to make us go to all those classes, to do all the generals? Money. That's all it is. And this is this was my thesis. The 4-year modern degree is a scam. Okay. It comes down to money. Why do they need me to take all those math classes, Ryan? Because they want me there for 2 years longer. They want my money. And I'm doing these are out of order, so my argument maybe isn't as sound. But I don't know. I don't want to ask you to agree with that right now because it's out of order. You're not going to agree with that at all. But right?
I think you're trying to make a statement of like, could Ryan agree that universities do try to push certain classes just to fill up?
That's a better way than I was going to put it. Yeah. Do universities require those generals, require me to take certain classes just because it'll make me be there longer and it'll make them more money?
I can't agree to that. And I could spend a lot of time on this because I actually Josh knows this. I just redid the gen ed at my university. I chaired the committee that did this. And I can guarantee you on this point, right, that is not the motivation of faculty. I can guarantee you that. Whether other people have that incentive, I don't think that's true.
But the
so I don't even think the administration would do that because, and here's why, our accrediting agency requires a gen ed. So to be an accredited institution, right? So like somebody is accrediting us saying like, this is a legitimate university, you have to have a gen ed. And they specify some of the.
What is their motivation? The accrediting people, what is their motivation for the gen ed? Is it they don't
get money out of that. They don't get money out of that.
So what is the motivation?
It's to make well-rounded citizens. That's genuinely that's the motivation.
What they're saying.
That's genuinely what it is. Because the accrediting bodies don't get anything. They're not rich institutions. They make no money off of this, right? The universities, some could argue like, oh, you're keeping them here longer. I don't really think that's the motivation. And I could like give you names. I'm not going to name any of my colleagues. Right?
Don't do that.
Would be really bad. No, I'm not going to do that. But there's one in particular. I'm just going to channel this person who is also on the committee. His passion for the liberal arts, what I described earlier, right? Natural science, social science, arts and humanities. Like I'm trying to think. This is like Tom's passion for going, climbing and hiking in Southern Utah, right? That's his passion for the liberal arts. This is like Josh's passion for writing is his passion for the liberal arts. He is that passionate about this that like, this is all he could talk about. This is all he cares about is making sure that students, when they graduate, are well-rounded, competent citizens. That's genuinely the motivation. So to suggest that universities are ill-intentioned, and I would grant some universities probably are. The for-profits, which have been cracked down on pretty substantially. So those institutions that were just trying to make money off of this, sure, they're horribly, ill-intentioned. But most universities are nonprofits. They're not trying to make money off of this, right? That's genuinely true. We're not trying to make money. At the end of the day,
Right.
if we have a profit, it goes back into the institution. Nobody walks away with $20 million.
No agreement there. All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
I like your point. This takes me directly into my next one. Your assertion there is nobody in the university, at the university level, faculty or administration, nobody is interested in the money-making aspect of it. That's what you're saying.
I hate talking in absolutes. So this is not to say that
The
people
majority
don't make
then.
money. The majority, I think, are genuinely there to educate.
Okay.
Like, obviously, we need to get paid, right? We want to
Beautiful.
get paid, but we're not there just to make money. We're there
I almost feel like I set you up here, and I wasn't my intention. So here's my next point, and you have to either agree with me or you're going to perjure yourself. Because I only know about this thing because you told me about it.
Okay.
So I'll let you explain what you explained to me about the scam that is the publishing industry that makes the books for universities. Why do you, since you've taken exception to that, why do you not demand of your students to buy the expensive books and you provide it for them in a PDF format? Explain the scam to me and Tom, or explain for all of us the scam that you explained to me. You have to agree with me or perjure yourself here. So go ahead.
Okay. I'm not perjuring myself. I do agree with you that textbook publishers, right, do run a bit of a scam by reissuing a new textbook every other year, roughly.
Bit of a scam. How much do those cost?
Hold on.
Between 100 and 160
Sure.
bucks.
Because they change maximum 10% of the content and then they charge everybody. And it is, I would argue, that's pretty close to a scam, right?
It's absolutely a scam.
I don't want to libel any big corporations here, right? What they're doing is making sure that lots of copies of the same book that doesn't really dramatically change content, right? Some actually do need to be updated regularly, but aren't on the market. So the resellers, right, which is the college bookstores, which is how the universities would make money, right? They can't just keep reselling the book. So the money goes to the publisher, not to the university bookstores.
Sure sounds like a scam to me.
Yes, but that's not universities.
But the universities are allowing this, right?
They're in complete cahoots, right? They have to be, because
there's some degree of them, condoning this.
There's a degree of collusion. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
they have to be.
You're not.
I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
I saw through it, and so I wrote my own free textbook, and I give it away for free.
But how many professors require the book? The majority?
Yes, the majority.
So they're in cahoots. They're colluding with the scam.
That's overly simplistic.
How
you're
else do you
basically
explain
saying every professor should write their own book and give it away for free. What incentive do they have to do that? I'm a lunatic. I'm insane. I just about dropped an F-bomb, but I'm not going to do it. I'm weird, right? As professors go, I'm absolutely nutters. I literally keep in mind, right? Many of the people who write those books are universities professors who then make some money. The publishers are making hand over fist millions and millions of dollars through this publication scheme. That doesn't get
you just called it a scheme. Thank you. So you agreed with me. There's
not a scam. Scheme.
Same thing.
Yeah. But the money
whenever you make that noise, that means you agree with me. And you don't want to admit it.
Is that capitulation?
Yes.
So textbook publishing, I would grant that, but that's not the universities necessarily doing that. That's some professors who do it.
At some level, the professors or the administration are in collusion with the publishers. Otherwise, the publishers couldn't be selling these books, and somebody would step in to fill that niche, right? At some point, the universities are okay with this, and it is a scam. At some point, see, you don't want to agree. You don't want to agree, but you know I'm right there.
Because you're talking about universities as though they're like institutions and they're autonomous, and they're not. You really need to talk about professors, right? So individual professors, some of them choose to go an easier route and pick a textbook, and then they assign the textbook. The university doesn't tell me which textbook to use. I pick the textbook, right? I have autonomy over my classroom.
So
I pick the textbook.
That's the point I wanted to make,
easier path,
without slamming all your colleagues, is that they're in collusion with the publishers.
Yes, because it's the easier path. It's the
Are
path of least
there-
resistance.
I thought that I've heard that some professors get a kickback for
No.
referring certain books or something like that. Is that
We get
not true?
nothing.
I
I
swear
mean, I've been
you-
doing this for 15 years. I get nothing. If I sign a textbook in my classes, which I don't except my stats class, right? So I do assign a textbook in my stats class and we use 90% of that book, right? I get nothing regardless of the
I
book.
swear
that
you told me
sign.
that there was like department heads meet with these publishers and there's some sort of
Oh, the publishers are
Lo-
on our campus all the time.
I'm sure
They
they're
want, they
promoting
want
it,
to,
right?
they're
so there's
promoting
some sort
it.
of lobbyist
Yes,
thing
but-
here going on.
But the
So
extent of what I
somebody's getting
get,
a kickback.
the extent of what I get is a candy bar. That's the most I've ever gotten from a publisher is, hey, if you will consider our books this year, here's a candy bar.
So why are they on the campus all the time? This doesn't
Because they're trying to talk us into it. It's the same thing that lobbyists do, right?
Except lobbyists
I
are
don't get paid
throwing
anything.
around millions
Sure.
of dollars.
I don't have a re-election campaign.
You're okay,
have
but
no
what you're
re-election
telling me
campaign.
isn't adding up. Tom, does that add up to you? That's not adding up to me. That the publishers are there all the time lobbying and not giving anybody any kind of kickback. That does not track at all.
I will show you all of my bank account records. I've
Well, I'm
never
not
gotten
saying-
a dime from a publisher.
But you're,
I
you're the
bel-
one that's not pushing books. Why
I
are they going to
believe,
talk to you?
Ryan, that they, if Ryan says that the professors are like genuinely concerned about the education and the students being education, I believe him. But it does seem like there's some type of like scheme, as Ryan says, that's going on. Where there is sort of abuse, right? There's definitely
Well,
some,
okay, let me try
some
this.
egregious markup and
Oh,
we're
the
taking
markup is
advantage
egregious.
of students, right?
Yes,
And
no
that's
question
passed
the markup
straight
is
on to the
egregious.
students, and
Yes,
the universities
that's all
are not getting in the way, saying this. We're not going to stand for this.
All right,
Which is hard. Yeah.
Josh, we gotta
Okay, we'll move on.
move on and see if we can get some other points of agreement.
Okay, I have one more point. I did these all out of order. Well, did Ryan agree with that? Because he either
We didn't get an agreement there.
okay, then he perjured himself. Those were the only two options. Because he's the one that told me about
Court
the
of law.
scam, the scam of publishing. Anyway, moving on. All right, so one last point. I could talk about the student loan debt crisis. That seemed like low-hanging fruit to me, so I didn't even want to go there because we all agree that is a big problem with universities and this insane amount of debt that students have accrued. But I don't think we want to spend time into that. What I want to talk about is the special protection that student loan debt has. Okay, I spent several years working as a bankruptcy paralegal, and the misnomer is you can't file bankruptcy on student loan debt, right? That's what most people believe. You technically can, but it has its own special protection where you have to prove to the bankruptcy trustee that there's a undue amount of stress applied to the debtor or his family because of the debt. So there's a special restriction if you want to file bankruptcy on your student loan debt. Okay, so we're clear there.
So there's almost a special treatment for student loan lenders.
Yes. Not almost, there is. They went to Washington with their lobbyists and got student loan debt singled out to have its own special treatment. Okay, and the misnomer is you can't file bankruptcy on student loan debt. Most people believe that, and it's largely true. It's just way harder to do. Why? If college was the route to go, and that's how you're going to make money, and it's really important that everybody does that. Why on earth would the lending institutions and the colleges that promote that, because they do go hand in hand. I remember when I went to Weber, there were lending institutions on the campus that were supported by the campus, the Weber State Credit Union, that was trying to push me to take out a loan there. Okay, so the administration, at the very least, I'm not saying the professors, but the administration was pushing these student loans on people. Why on earth, if this was such a good idea, would they need to spend all this money going to Washington to get special rules that you can't get rid of your student loan debt like you can get rid of any other debt in bankruptcy? Just the mere existence of that screams, this is a scam, or at the very least a trap. If you don't love the word scam, at the very least,
I'll go with trap.
It's a terrible trap. Okay, why else would that exist? Both your thoughts on that?
I want to let me add that this was the second thought that I was thinking of that I'd like to have addressed, and that was that, and it kind of goes along with what Josh is saying, is that should there be fiduciary responsibility of colleges to solicit to certain groups? Kind of what Ryan's saying is like, not everyone should go to college, but there seemed to be this pressure and this idea that everyone should go to college, even though I think we both agreed that not everyone should. And when we promote and try to get people in that clearly shouldn't be there, that sort of becomes sort of I think there's. That becomes almost a scam like thing where these colleges are doing this when we're setting someone up for failure, right? Either they drop out and they get themselves in debt unnecessarily, or they get degrees and they didn't really need those degrees.
That's why it's a scam. Thank you for using the right word. Yes. The stat I have is that 4 out of 10 fail to graduate within 6 years. So that's almost a 40% dropout rate, that they've incurred some debt or they've paid some tuition and then they never even got a degree out of it. And so the argument, like, should they have even gone to college in the first place? Or, maybe could there have been a test or something? They've been like, you know what? College isn't for you, buddy. Sorry. Here's a wrench, go plumb. Right?
That's my last point. So I will give that last point, but to address this question of like student loan debt, I think student loan debt is a huge problem. I think we should have an entire separate episode where we actually dig deeply into it. I'm not going to disagree with you, Josh. So I think there's general agreement that it's very problematic. I'm reticent to put a lot of the blame on the institutions exclusively, like on the universities, right? And the reason why I would say that, so I think we generally agree, right?
Because lenders are separate, right?
Lenders are separate for the most part. The example you gave of Weber State's credit union is really creepy. We don't have a credit union in my university, right? Some universities do. We don't. Do we work with lending agencies for students who want the loans? Yes, we do that, right? So there's collusion on this point, right? But I wouldn't necessarily say that the universities are trying to make sure every student gets debt, right? Like that's not our incentive. So I think there's general agreement. But to the final point, if I can, and this is where I'm going to say something that I don't think is particularly politically correct, but maybe we'll end on a point of agreement, and then we can go with any other points we have. One thing that often isn't brought up is that college is a gatekeeper, right? It's not nice to say this, and I'm sure lots of people are going to hate me for admitting this, but one function of college is to keep less intelligent people from entering certain professions. Okay, that's just true. There are variations in intelligence. That's a fact. I don't think we have to debate that, right? Certain professions require a certain degree of intelligence. If you cannot learn to calculate the trajectory of rockets, you shouldn't be an aerospace engineer. If you can't learn the difference between RNA and DNA, you shouldn't be a biochemist, right? Can we agree that college should, in fact, serve as a gatekeeper for professions?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Again, it's probably my bias with the 4-year degree, because, we don't want stupid people becoming doctors. But who's to say that the onus should be on the 4-year college instead of the graduate program?
Why shouldn't it be on us?
Or could the onus be with the company, right? To decide whether they want to be to have that vetting process, right? Should the onus be on them if they want scientists that haven't gone to school? Then
that actually makes more sense. But that in a way that actually makes more sense, because look at the GPA. What GPA does your college need to graduate? Bare minimum. Is it 2.0?
2.0.
Okay.
No, it varies. You have to have a 3.0 in your major. It's complicated. But 2.0
still,
overall.
So say you have a 2.0 and you get that certificate on your wall saying you graduated. It doesn't say your GPA on the certificate, right?
Nope.
So the person that gets the 2.0 gets the exact same freaking degree as the person that got the 4.0. And the company doesn't necessarily know that. And that could be a huge difference in IQ, in work ethic, in whatever.
Sure.
Right? Okay, so is that really? I mean, in a way, it's gatekeeping.
People don't pass my classes if they fail, right? So one of the classes I teach, statistics, right? Yeah. It is the gatekeeping class for getting a degree in sociology. Okay. I have had students walk across the stage at graduation because they were planning to graduate. They took statistics their last semester, and as they walk across the stage, I point at them, right, to my people sitting next to me and say, "You're not graduating," and they never graduate. Because they're walking across the stage? Well, I'm not like yelling at them, right? But I have to.
You're like, holy crap, you're
I'm
a
sitting in
prick,
the
dude.
audience. No.
He's like got their cat calling. No, get him off the stage. Get security for that guy.
No, Mom, you can't take a picture with him.
I'm not quite that
crap.
bad. I am pretty mean.
So that's
right?
how you made it sound.
No, I'm
Jeez.
sitting next to a colleague,
You're
and
throwing
we're,
tomatoes
they
at
read
these
somebody's
guys.
name. Yeah, they read somebody's name, and I'm like, they're not graduating. They just failed stats, right? My class is a gatekeeper class. And that means literally I've got students who they make it through everything else. They hit my stats class, they can't, right? And if they continue to try, right, and they keep failing the class, they're never going to graduate. And this is when we shunt them off to a easier major, right? But at the end of the day, my major requires people to pass statistics. You have to be able to do science at some level, right? And if you can't do that, you don't deserve a degree. We are a gatekeeper, right? And if you think mine is tough, which it's really not, mine's pretty easy, try, say, marine science at my university. They churn through students so fast, right? That, I mean, that's one of our big attractions here. We're on the coast, we're right on the water. We have these big boats and we send students out to do research. It's super cool. But we have a bunch of students who come down like, I'm going to be a marine scientist and swim with dolphins. And then they take their first biochem class, right? Or organic chem, and they get a 30% in the class. And they're like, I'm going to be a sociologist. I get it, right? Like, I get that. But it's gatekeeping. Some of those kids switch majors and then they graduate. Others never even graduate, right? And that is one of the things that we do. And it's not PC to say it, but hey, there are stupid people out there who try to go to college and we don't let them through.
Well, that goes
right?
back to Tom's first point and kind of yours, right? A lot of these people shouldn't be going to college.
They should not be going to college.
Where is this onus coming from that every kid in high school should be going to college? Because that's all I heard. And I hated every minute of college, and it wasn't for me, and I've done just fine without it.
Right.
And I know a lot of people like that. So where's this onus coming from? That's one of my main problems with the 4-year degree. They say everybody should be going to college, and we've come full circle now, right?
Yeah, I think we have. So I think we would agree. College is not for everybody. It's warranted for some professions, not others. I think the nuance, and then I think we should probably wrap up or whatever, but I think the nuance here is that a lot of families look at the numbers and know that if you go to college, you're going to make more money. So I wouldn't say that it's all just like college is saying we need everybody, right? I think it's a lot of families also saying, hey, that's the American dream. The way to the American dream, to get a profession, to be a professional.
That's fair.
To go to college. So we're going to push our kids to go to college. And a lot of professors are like, please don't send your kid to college.
Don't send Bubba. We don't want Bubba. Right?
No, I didn't say that,
but no, that's a good point.
The
because
sentiment is right. Like, I don't want all of them because some of them, I mean, I'll tell you one, right? This happened really early on in my college career. We have like an introduction to college class, right? Where it's like, literally, here's how to be a college student. And this one student from day one never uttered an intelligible sentence.
Wow.
Okay. And I don't know how this kid got into my university because we actually do have criteria. We're not an open enrollment university. We have criteria. I don't know how the student got in, but halfway through the semester,
how we found your
this
class.
Student, well, they were assigned to my class, right? But this student was failing all 3 of the classes they were taking, including mine, which is an introduction to college, which is the easiest. If you've got a pulse, you should pass this class. It's that easy. They couldn't pass it. And I had to have a serious conversation with this student saying, I don't think college is for you. And the student, you've heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like, people don't know how stupid they really are.
Mm-hmm.
She had no idea. Her parents, her whole life had just told her, this is for you. And then it took somebody like me to say, you shouldn't be in college. I'm sorry. And it's totally not PC to say this, but I'm just going to say it because it's true. This is one of the things we do. We're the ones who weed them out and say, I'm sorry, you're not going to be an MD. Tough. Move on. Try something different.
Well, good. I think we've found some good. I think we have found some common ground in some certain areas, and it brought up some really interesting points and thoughts about whose responsibility is it to decide if someone should or shouldn't go? And is it the family? Is it the university? Is it should that be regulated? But that's that was a really good discussion. There was a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get to but we've run out of time. I was going to talk about the political impact or political ideology, right? Are schools too liberal, or are they brainwashing? It's an echo chamber.
Yes.
and then we're talking also was going to talk about education
Poke.
and the quality of education, right? With coronavirus, kids are now going online, and the replacement of full-time tenured faculty with like adjunct and teaching assistants, and is that that's got to be affecting education, and is that how much is that diluting the experience? And so those will be things for another time. But anyway, that was great. It was really interesting. It was fun to hear both sides of the conversation. So thanks, everybody. And that was fun. We'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Finding Common Battlegrounds. The music is by Ben Sound. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not those of their employers. For more information or more episodes, you can find us at findingcommonbattlegrounds.com.